What did you guys think about Daenerys ending up being Mad Queen? Joshua, we'll talk with you. And do you think it felt earned, or are you frustrated like a lot of other people are at kind of this course correction for this character?
It's really interesting because I don't like how we got to the point of her becoming the Mad Queen, but the result of her becoming the Mad Queen and what she did and how that affected the other characters and just shook up the state of Game of Thrones made me feel something like really strong, very uncomfortable feeling, but it made me feel something, and it kind of felt like the show was like really interesting, and I was not quite sure what was going to happen for once. But yeah, how we got there and how we meet her in this episode with her. Oh, her hair is like it's loose and messy everywhere. And
Well, who's going to do her hair for
yeah,
her?
Miss Sandy, isn't there to comb her hair or talk sense into her anymore? And it was Jorah the one who fed her meals because she's also gaunt and everything, and she's like, I'm crazy now, So that I just thought that was so like hokey and was not into how they're like, oh, this is Dany now. Obviously we showed you how she's been backed into a corner and she lost all her trusted advisors, and there's like literally no other option for her to become this, and it felt forced. I felt like if maybe this was like a full proper season, there would have been some more time to get her there. Because Game of Thrones has always been a show about like moral complexities and people who aren't necessarily all good or all evil, but she just went straight to the dark side. And there's been a lot of complex character work for her in other seasons, but it seems like they just kind of ignored all of that now just to make her the villain for these final 2 episodes.
You said you don't like how he got there, but you do kind of like the fact that she is there. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that the fact that she decided, she took that rest right in the middle of the battle after she pretty much obliterated all of the defenses and all their scorpions and stuff. She kind of just sat there and she looked at the Red Keep, and then she decided, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to make it personal. And when she did that, that's what really like changed the landscape of the show. For the longest time, we thought
literally,
yes, literally, the skylines at King's Landing isn't the same anymore. But when we've constantly been thinking that this all had to do with like the Night King, and the Night King was so important, and this and that, whatever. And
or
then,
Cersei, even it was all about Cersei,
yeah,
right?
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. I guess we were just kind of waiting for like some meaning to come out of all of this, and some like really poetic arc to blossom out of all this chaos. And the Night King just kind of went down. And then in the next episode, they didn't even like mention him except for the Hound like making a joke about him. So I thought, well, where is the show going now? And turns out all along, maybe Dany was the real villain of the show that they were building. And of course, she has a very sympathetic arc of, she came from a really horrible place and had to do a lot of bad things to get what was hers, what she saw as hers. And that was really compelling. And a lot of people championed her as the hero. People are dressing up as, Mother of Dragons for Halloween and stuff, and naming their kids Daenerys and stuff. But now I think ultimately that arc has led to a very tragic place where she feels she has no other option than to really make a mark on history. And she thinks when people look back on that battle and what she did, I think people she wanted people to like fear, because she didn't have the love of the people, right? And so she wanted people to know that she laid waste to that place. And that also sends a message to anyone who would oppose her in Westeros or another part of the world that you do not mess with her, because this will happen to you. And that took her crossing a lot of lines and burning them down along with a lot of innocent people.
Yeah, a lot to chew on in this. But Jim, I want to hear from you. What did you think?
I actually quite liked the episode, and I actually thought it paid off. It was a logical conclusion to this arc. I never understood why people thought she was going to end up this hero, because I thought it was pretty on the nose early on that she was going to be like an Anakin Skywalker in this story. There are very classical, almost tropey kind of things in Game of Thrones where it's like absolute power corrupts absolutely, and she basically embraced the Machiavellian kind of maxim of it's better to be feared than loved. All this kind of stuff that history has taught us, has warned us about. And she was a young, inexperienced person with an incredible sense of entitlement and essentially 3 weapons of mass destruction. What did we really think was going to happen? Like we saw before, young people, and not just young people, but people, untried people given that much power and that much might, what it would do to them. We saw it with Joffrey, Ramsay Bolton, all these people, and I never bought that she was going to be this, it wasn't going to be How to Train Your Dragon. It's not Toothless and Hiccup, It's like, this is a person who's the daughter of the Mad King. Now, whether he was nudged there or not by Bran, we'll find out. But like, I think that it was, I think it was completely kind of in character for her to make that choice, because it's also in character with how despots have behaved throughout history, like from like Vlad the Impaler, right? Like, he fought a war and he thought he had to do what he had to do, including impaling people for miles. Every bad ruler has done that. They all justify, they think that ends justify the means. So when she's sitting up there saying, future generations will be free of tyrants, yeah, will there be future generations? Because you just killed everybody. But that's also in keeping with how despots and evil rulers have done. They've wiped people's seed from the earth, and just made sure that, the child can't grow up to get revenge, So it's, I thought it was pretty in character. And I didn't actually read it as her being like quite crazy at the beginning. Yeah, she had kind of the unblinking stare. I think she was more kind of paranoid. And I think that's why she wasn't eating, because she knew she was right. She knew people were conspiring against her.
And Varys, they don't explicitly say it, but the implication at the beginning, that first scene with Varys, is he is trying to poison her. Like, he's trying to take her down.
He's got his little bird doing his work for him.
Yeah. And I also took it as her, frankly, being devastated that Missandei had died, her closest friend. And, Grey Worm doesn't say too much, but like, he was never much of an advisor to her. She lost Barristan Selmy. She lost Jorah. She doesn't trust Tyrion. She lost Missandei. She has no one to guide her. I'm with you. I actually, there are parts of the episode that I thought didn't ring completely true. I stand by the best episode of Game of Thrones is the first 20 minutes of the season 6 finale, when it's like the build up to Cersei taking down the Sept of Baelor, because it's just like perfection on every level. But I did really like this episode, and especially the Daenerys twist. Laura Prudhomme, who's our reviewer for Game of Thrones, she's been on previous episodes of Dragons on the Wall. She is currently writing her review and trying to grapple with her thoughts on the episode as we speak. So her take might be a little bit different than ours if we aren't representing it here. But for me, I think part of the reason why it seems like people are taking it as such a bait and switch is because the show itself never took a cold, hard look at Daenerys Targaryen and said, is she a good ruler? It's only been kind of in dribs and drabs this season that the characters are even having that conversation. So you have the combination of the show, because Daenerys has been so far removed from every other character, it wasn't until this season, really, and kind of when Varys and Tyrion came into her storyline, that we started getting a look at Daenerys from an outsider's perspective. We were always with her, and everyone is the hero of their own story, right? So of course, she was the hero of hers through her own eyes. But the show never asked, but what about Meereen? She just left it behind. What about Yunkai? What about Astapor? What about the fact that she has just come in as a conqueror and never been a ruler? And these are things that, like, in our preview for Dragons this season, like, we talked about those questions, about this idea of Daenerys maybe not being a great ruler. And I get that, like, for people who haven't been questioning that, who've been saying, this is a character I name my children after, and I don't know, do you get to, like, rename your children if you end up hating
it's
the
Danielle
turns?
now.
Yeah, it's Danielle instead. But I get it why that feels like a burn, or like, what have I been investing my time in the same way that people felt that when Ned Stark died and Robb Stark died. But unlike kind of my frustrations with the Night King, where I was just like, wait, it all just dissolved, it meant nothing. To me, Daenerys absolutely has been on track for this story beat. And the showrunners kind of explained it in the inside the episode as like, well, in the absence of any good advisors to tell her, here's what you should do. And also after these series of betrayals left her feeling, completely vulnerable, and it's personal now, like this might not have happened. I frankly don't think that it could have happened any other way, because her entire experience as a ruler has been through conquering and been through a show of might. And that's exactly what she did here. It just happened to be in a situation that we are really invested in, again, getting those other perspectives.
Well, see, I think in a lot of ways, like, her mindset of how to be a ruler was cemented the minute Khal Drogo poured put the gold crown on Viserys, and she saw that's how you deal with things. But he was just a barbarian, and he didn't have to actually rule; he just had to conquer. But I want to actually kind of make a point about your earlier comment of, I feel like the show has been kind of laying the groundwork a little bit for sowing the seeds of doubt about her, because we saw when she roasted the Tarleys, Tyrion wasn't exactly 100% on that one either. You could tell that a lot of her advisors have been afraid of her and trying to cross her. And I don't think even if she had those advisors, she wouldn't have listened. She wanted what she wanted. She was that close to it. It's all she's ever known and wanted was getting there, and it was within reach. She wasn't going to stop.
Wrecked it.
She did.
That's the thing that's so devastating. And the show didn't really do much about kind of the final remnants of wildfire around the city going off. But if you think about it, she did what her father wasn't able to do because Jaime had killed him. He wanted to burn them all. And that's exactly what she did. He wanted to light up King's Landing as flagrant, all these people who he ruled who were turning against him. And he wasn't able to because Jaime killed him. And she did exactly that for all the people that she was supposed to be taking care of. And it's like, it's so Game of Thrones. Like, to me, it feels quite true to the show that these things would happen.
Even just hearing you say that was such a cool callback, like parallel right there. I wish they had put that in the show.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like having her turn so quickly is just, it's not giving her enough credit, and saying that, oh, well, her advisors weren't there, therefore she's now a crazy person. I don't think that gives that character enough credit. And because, yes, everything you said earlier, Jim, definitely true about how she feels entitled to all this stuff, and she's got a short temper. And a lot of those people have been there to keep her in check. But also, she is a character of willpower and of strong decision-making skills. And I just felt like they made her seem like she was just a slave to her inhibitions, and was just out of control without other people to keep her in check. But which oh gosh, it almost sounds like it's become like a meta commentary of telling a woman what to do with her.
But is she more dragon than
is.
human? Frankly, I mean, I think that's a question where a dragon.
Is this about the tail?
No, I feel like the dragon is there as a metaphor, but also a dragon is just a beast that lays waste, right, to everything. And I think ultimately, she wasn't the mother of Shih Tzus. She was the mother of dragons, and it was it's a very different, right there that should tell you something. She is a force of nature and a force of destruction, and that's what there is a reason why villages always wanted to slay the dragon in fairy tales. They weren't necessarily there to be protectors. They were also a threat to civilization that had to be put down.
For plenty more on Game of Thrones, we will have you covered this week. We will have plenty of coverage on IGN.com. Make sure to check out Laura Prudhom's review of the episode, which should be live by the time you read this. If you want more Game of Thrones discussion fun time, you can tune into our weekly live IGN Watch Party pre- and post shows on any platform you like to watch IGN. We also have an excellent, very fun video of the Game of Thrones cast responding to IGN comments. Part 2, you guys liked the first one so much that we figured we'd use all the leftover ones and put another video together. Speaking of comments, we love hearing your thoughts, so be sure to weigh in on this week's topics on IGN.com in the comments. And if you love us too, then be sure to follow and subscribe to IGN for more Game of Thrones. We'll see you next week.